Wow, it's lovely to have you all here this afternoon, I should say. I would like to welcome very warmly Their Excellencies Miss Quentin Bryce, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Mr Michael Bryce. It is always a pleasure to have you here at the Australian War Memorial. A very warm welcome to all our veterans here this afternoon, both Australian and New Zealand, and those next of kin who were also able to join us. To the Honourable Warren Snowden, Minister for Veterans Affairs, again, always great to have you here. And today I would especially like to thank you for the support that you've given to those veterans attending today. Senator Gary Humphries is here with us today representing the Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs. Of course, we have our Chairman, Rear Admiral Ken Doolan, and members of Council here this morning, and His Excellency Major General Martin Dunn, New Zealand High Commissioner. Some objects stand out as icons. They capture the essence of something that is very difficult to express in words. They're not always beautiful, but they're precious. They're highly valued, and they come at a cost. The Long Tan Cross is one of those. So this afternoon we're going to talk about what the Long Tan Cross represents in terms of the cost in men's lives, about the toll on those who survived, and about the value that we place on the sacrifice and service of our Vietnam veterans. It goes without saying, the cost was high. So this coming together today, this act of commemoration, is what the Long Tan Cross has always been about. Whether it was in a rubber plantation, or in a museum in Dong Nai, or in a gallery in the Australian War Memorial. The message is universal and it's timeless. The cost of battle is high and will not be forgotten. I would like to personally thank a number of veterans who have worked with us closely on this loan. And I'm honoured to say that there are a number here of those veterans who were at the Battle of Long Tan. I want to acknowledge the work of Harry Smith, Commander of D Company 6 RAR, whom I know needs no introduction. He's worked with us to get a lot of us here together this afternoon. I do appreciate that. And I would also like to acknowledge Neil Rankin, who's going to say a few words to us later this afternoon as well. And Chaplain Shorty Brown, who will be contributing to our closing ceremony this afternoon. Especially, I would like to acknowledge all those here today who fought at the Battle of Long Tan and all those who saw service in Vietnam. It is my honour to welcome you to the Australian War Memorial. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge Steve Gower, whom I know all of you know and admire and acknowledge as someone who's done a lot for the Australian War Memorial over the last 16 years. And I understand Steve and Harry have been speaking over a couple of years about having the Long Tan Cross on loan to the Australian War Memorial. And I know that many of you will be sad that Steve has not been able to be here today to actually see that come around. But I know he does send his very best wishes to you this afternoon. But now I'd like to call on Her Excellency, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, to deliver the address. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, my friends. Rear Admiral Ken Doolan, Chair, Australian War Memorial, Ms Nola Anderson, Acting Director, Australian War Memorial, the Honourable Warren Snowden, Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister for Defence Science and Personnel, Senator Gary Humphries, representing the Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs, Colonel Scott Clemens, representing the Ambassador of the United States of America, His Excellency Major General Martin Dunn, High Commissioner for New Zealand, Lieutenant Colonel Harry Smith, Mr Neil Rankin, Long Tan and Vietnam veterans, distinguished guests all. My friends, our much-loved Australian War Memorial is a very special place. It's a very special place for all of us, from people across our nation, for visitors from overseas, for the thousands of school children who come every year. It is sacred to us. In August every year, we honour the service and the sacrifice of our Vietnam veterans. This year, the memorial has a very special display to mark this time of remembrance, a powerful, evocative symbol of Australia's Vietnam experience, the Long Tan Cross. Its presence here will mean so much to our Vietnam vets, more than I could ever imagine, especially for those who fought at Long Tan. The battle that was Australia's most costly engagement of the Vietnam War. During our 10-year-long involvement, there were bigger and more sustained battles, but few were so intense and dramatic. We must never forget the events of that late afternoon and early evening of the 18th of August, 1966. 108 soldiers of D Company 6 RAR, including 3 Royal New Zealand artillerymen, fought a fierce battle in a rubber plantation near the abandoned village of Long Tan. They faced a large Viet Cong and North Vietnamese army force. They were outnumbered at least 10 to 1. But with artillery support from the Australian base 5 kilometres away, they fought off a series of determined attacks. At one point, they had to be resupplied with ammunition dropped from 2 RAF Iroquois helicopters. The soldiers of Delta Company fought for 3 long hours through a tropical downpour. Just as reinforcements arrived in the fading light, the fighting subsided and the rain stopped. The cost of victory had been high. 18 young Australians lost their lives in that rubber plantation, 17 during the battle, and 1 died of wounds 9 days later. The youngest was just 19 years old, the oldest 22. Over half of them were national servicemen. Another 25 Australians were wounded. The day after the battle, 245 enemy bodies were counted on the battlefield, although it is believed many more dead and wounded were retrieved during the night. For its extraordinary heroism, Delta Company was awarded a US Presidential Unit Citation. On the 3rd anniversary of the battle, soldiers of 6th Battalion RAR returned to the site to erect and dedicate a commemorative cross. Soldiers who had fought at Long Tan were present at the ceremony. After the communist victory in 1975, the Long Tan Cross was removed from the site by local people. There was some mystery about its location until in 1984, the cross was recovered by the Dong Nai Museum in Bien Hoa City, where it was displayed with other relics from the war. 2 years later, the Long Dat District People's Committee erected a replica cross and a new plaque at the original Long Tan Cross site. Over time, the site fell into disrepair until Australians veterans organisations, with the permission of the Vietnamese authorities, restored the replica cross and memorial. The site has since become a focus for visits by Australian veterans and for remembrance ceremonies. Many other Australians have also made pilgrimages to the Long Tan battlefield and viewed the replica cross standing there now. In May last year, I had the privilege of doing just that in the company of Vietnam veterans. It was a very moving experience, one I shall never forget. The unforgiving landscape, the flatness, the reverence of the silence. We stared at those rubber trees, just the same height, just the same formation. No cover, nowhere to dig in, nothing except bare trunks of trees, the rustle of leaves scattering across that flat surface. I sat in quiet conversation with the vets there in front of the cross. Our Vietnam veterans are very special to me. They belong to my generation. I watched them go to war, and I saw those who came home. In the last decade, many have become my friends for whom I have enormous respect. Many Australians have travelled to the Dong Nai Museum to see the cross. For those unable to undertake such visits, this new display offers a priceless opportunity. They can come to this wonderful symbol of what our brave soldiers did. Perhaps they will come to understand, even if just a little, what service and sacrifice truly mean. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved. Charles Bean's famous words inscribed in the entrance of this memorial have for many years spoken directly to us of the Australian experience of war. Now, in the shadow of this cross, a new generation of Australians will encounter the Anzac spirit as exemplified by our Vietnam veterans. My friends.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for those inspiring words. I now invite Lieutenant Colonel Harry Smith to deliver his reflections. Lieutenant Colonel Harry Smith was the commander of D Company, 6th Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment at the Battle of Long Tan on 18 August 1966. For his outstanding leadership and bravery under fire during the battle, he was decorated with the Military Cross. He was subsequently awarded a Star of Gallantry in 2008 following the recommendations of an independent review panel.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, which I won't name individually, but I welcome you all. Thank you very much. Wonderful to see old friends here. I'd also like to acknowledge the work that's been done by Nola Anderson and the War Memorial staff in getting the cross here. And in the last month or two, the work that's gone in by the War Memorial to invite people here today. And I would like to start off by saying that we have here today, pardon me, some of the former next of kin of the 18 men that were killed on Long Tan in Vietnam, 17 of my own company and one of the Armoured Personnel Carrier Troop. We have here today two of my platoon commanders, Dave Sabin and Bob Buick. Jeff Kendall sends his regrets. However, his platoon sergeant, Neil Rankin, is here to represent 10 Platoon. We also have some of the veterans who were on their second tour in 1969 at the ceremony at the cross, which is on the photo outside. And they are Corporal, apart from Neil Rankin, Corporal Bill Roche, Bill A. Kell, Chaplain Shorty Brown, plus APC driver, who was Adrian Roberts, the Armoured Troop Commander's driver. I call him Piggy O'Rourke. He responds to that. And the man whose platoon built the cross, the Pioneer Platoon of 1969, Sergeant Alan McLean. Now, we also have representatives of the team, and I say a team, which supported us, especially the Australian and New Zealand artillery, and also through the American representatives here today. I thank the American Army Artillery and also the American Air Force, which provided air support during the battle. We have two of the pilots that drove the two helicopters, or co-pilots, Bob Grandin and Bruce Lane. They brought out the ammunition in atrocious flying conditions at a time when we needed a resupply. We have members of Bravo Company who came. We actually relieved Bravo Company and they went back to base but didn't get there when the battle started, and they returned to us late just as the battle terminated. And they're represented by former Corporal Spike Jones, military medal. He won his military medal, I might add, Operation Brivey. And there are several others. We have Adrian Roberts, who commanded the APC troop. We also have Charles Mollison, who commanded Alpha Company of the 6th Battalion, who were the passengers on board the APC, and also former Lieutenant, now Colonel Peter Dinham, whose platoon dismounted from one APC to support an intrepid sergeant who had got off the top and was out there by himself. So Peter and the rest of half his platoon got out and supported Frank. They put a group of enemies to flight before the APCs continued their advance towards us. All those people are here, and I thank you all for being here, and you are all part of the team that helped us survive. The cross is very dear to my heart, of course. It's a memorial to the 17 of my company family, if you want to put it that way. And I guess as the years go on, I almost feel like a father or a grandfather and very sad about those young men we lost. I also, of course, have feeling for the APC NCO who was mortally wounded and died some time later. Nola mentioned General Steve Gower, who is the director of the War Memorial for, I think, the last 12 years or so. Steve rang me last Monday and he reminded me that he worked for me as my company forward observer in the artillery during Operation Bribey and other activities in 1967. He rose in rank, highly decorated, and he's done an absolutely wonderful job. He sent his apologies to say that he unfortunately could not be here today. I'd like to briefly talk about the battle, which the Governor-General has covered, but I thought that I might tell you about what the enemy say about our battle. It's only recently that the enemy official regimental history of the D445 local provincial battalion has been published, along with some snippets from the 275 regiment. And their version is based on a 3-kilometre long ambush along the road leading to Long Tan village south of the rubber plantation between Longfook and Long Tan. They claim to have mortared the task force base continuously for 3 days to lure the tiger from the mountain, as is their expression. And then they decimated one of 2 battalions that came out along the road in an ambush. And their panic-stricken survivors fled 6 kilometres south to the village of Datdo. Well, I think you can all probably see that's far from the fact. However, in the 275 regiment history, there is some truth in that the headquarters of the regiment was in a place called Apfook Hole, which was slightly east of the Long Tan rubber, and we believe the regiment was actually lying in wait to attack the task force base. Now, experts will say that is not the case. However, I was there when 2 North Vietnamese prisoners were being interpreted by the intelligence officer, Brian Wickens, and they both said, yes, we were on the way to attack your base. That's good enough for me. Many historians will say that the propaganda which has been put out by the enemy, or the former enemy, is simply to cover up a failure. Our story, of course, is not quite the same, and I won't go into a lot of detail. Her Excellency has covered most of the salient points. But I do want to say that my company had to go out to take over from Bravo Company, led by Noel Ford, who met with a tragic drowning accident in late '96 when he came back from Vietnam. His company had gone out without any rations, they thinking they would be back in base, to look for what were supposedly the people that mortared the task force base for 22 minutes, not 3 days. They found evidence where the enemy had fired from, and we were sent out to take over from them. My instructions were to go out, take over from Noel, and look for 20, 30, 40 enemy that mortared the base. We kitted up, fired weapons, tested them, and set forth. Late in the morning, a very hot day, we forced through 2-metre high grass, took over from the company. Noel showed me what they had found, and I looked at the signs. And as to us being led into the trap, as in the latest book on the Vietnam War, yet another book, it was a toss of a coin, basically, because I saw tracks that were going to the north. And I read in A Company's reports that enemy passed by them early in the morning morning of the 17th, and I think one soldier said they sounded like a herd of buffaloes, and they were the tracks. I could have gone to the north. I elected to go east, and my main reason, I can tell you now, was simply to get through the hot, smelly, dirty, mosquito-infested rubber, to get into the jungle on the other side for a secure night base, unaware, of course, that there was at least 2 or 3 battalions of main force and North Vietnamese in that area. I was also not told that the intelligence and the local training team officer at Baria, Mike Wells, was that the 275 and 274 Regiment of the Vietnamese 5th Division were advancing south to take on Nui Dat. They were not quite happy that the Australians had come and sat in the middle of their base and decimated the village of Long Phuc. I was not told that mercenary soldiers up at Bin Ba to the north had deserted because they knew the enemy was coming south. I was also not told that radio intercept had located the 275 Regiment headquarters radio just to the east of where the battle was fought. We were not told that. So there were 275 Regiment of 3, maybe 4, that's debatable. There was included a North Vietnamese battalion. It included heavy weapons units. It included Mrs. Fong's medical evacuation unit and a transportation unit. In all, somewhere between 2,500 to 2,500 enemy in the area, and that's including the Delta 445 battalion, which is further south. We had actually gone, my company had gone through that rubber out to a second feature called Nui Dat 2 on the 15th of August. Bravo Company had been in the rubber on the morning of the 18th, and A Company was further to north. A Company had a couple of contacts, but they were further north. We did not expect to come across that force of enemy. We did, and unfortunately my 1st platoon had a contact, chased up the contact. The enemy who were lying in wait to the east came forward in increasing numbers, took that platoon on, and that platoon sadly lost 13 men killed out of 29. The other 4 were lost in the company defensive position during the rest of the battle. I estimated that yes, we were going to have problems. One company against at least a battalion of Vietnamese enemy. I called for reinforcements. In fact, I called for reinforcements at 4:15, believing there was a ready reaction force in the task force area. I was wrong. Reinforcements were denied. I was told that Alpha Company, 6RAR, would come out in APCs soon. I asked Bravo Company. In fact, I talked to Noel Ford on the radio and I said, I want you to come back, mate. Noel had been a classmate of mine at OCS. He was told to stay where he was, not to move. I asked for the whole regiment of artillery, 18 guns and the US 155s. It was denied. I think looking back, they probably said, who's that young fella out there wants a whole regiment? We've never fired a regimental mission since Korea. What's he up to? And it's amazing to me, looking back, that really the task force wasn't organised to fight a battle of that nature in those days. It was our first major battle, and apart from the APCs being held back, unfortunately the Brigadier is in a situation where he realised there could have been a 2nd regiment that may attack the base from the north. Whether he sent them out or not, whichever he do, he was damned if he did and he's damned if he don't. So they were held back for over an hour. We got Air Force helicopters came with the ammunition. We also got American Air Force Phantom bombers straight to come in. Unfortunately, they couldn't drop their ammunition because of the rain and cloud, and they had to drop it further east, not in front of the company where I wanted it. And towards the end of the battle, when the enemy was starting to get through the artillery, I asked my artillery officer, Captain Maurice Stanley, whose widow is here today, along with his signaller, Willie Walker, and his son. I said, Maury, I want you to drop 50. In other words, bring the guns in closer. Unbelievably, the word came back over the artillery net, denied. We consider it's unsafe. Goodness gracious me. And here are people 4 kilometres away telling me it was unsafe. Well, that was like, as I said last night at the Longtan film picture, like holding a red rag to a bull. And I won't tell you what I said, but eventually they fired. And they got the artillery, dropped 50, it terminated that particular assault by the enemy, and the battle went on at a lesser pace. The Bravo Company of Platoon arrived back just on dark, followed by the armoured personnel carriers with the Alpha Company on board, by which time the enemy had actually left our front and had gone east. The APCs chased them, came back, the battle was over, and not another shot was fired that night. Colonel Townsend, the CO of 6 RAR, had arrived with a troop when 300 metres south of us. He dismounted and ordered a later withdrawal, and we came out of that battlefield near midnight. And then we got the American and Australian helicopters in to evacuate the casualties to Vung Tau Hospital. Apart from my 17 wounded, I personally lost 23 wounded that afternoon. The APCs had 1 killed. A Company had some slightly wounded who remained on duty. The next morning, as the Governor-General said, we went back. It was like the aftermath of Cyclone Tracy. There were trees everywhere, and there was carnage. There were bodies and bits of bodies everywhere. A terrible sight, and it lingers in my mind. Mrs. Fong's medical evacuation unit is in fact praised in the regimental history of 275 Regiment for braving our fire to get in and recover the casualties. So we don't know how many they took away. It's been debated by various people. I believe they lost at least 300 or 400 dead and probably had a double that number wounded. We will never probably know. The Memorial Cross, of course, is what Longtan was all about. It's a symbol that enshrines the spirits of those 18 young men. But since the Vietnam Veterans Association took Longtan on board as the icon of their war, the whole of the war, it's been elevated on a platform, and the Longtan Cross now symbolises the 520 young men we lost in Vietnam and the 3,000 that were wounded. And I must say that I personally have feeling for the young enemy soldiers who were lost and their families and loved ones. I know the role of infantry. Our infantry was the same as the enemy, to locate and kill the enemy, which is a terrible fact of life that has plagued the world ever since man was man, and it's still going on around the world. But that was our job, to kill the enemy. That was their job, to kill us. If I could just add to what Her Excellency said about the cross, you'll notice on the cross out there is a name embedded in paint or old paint across the cross. It was taken by, I understand, a local Catholic farmer when it was knocked down by the former enemy in 1975 and erected over a family grave. And the inscription plate, a brass plate, was taken off, and it is said by people in Vietnam that it was used as a heating plate for rice or whatever until it was taken away by the people of Long Dat, as Her Excellency said, and stored in the local area and then eventually taken to the Long Dat Museum. And since that time, of course, there's been a replica cross there, and around Australia I think there are 7 other replica crosses. And I'm sure that the cross being here, and I hope it's on a 99-year lease or possession, is 9 points of the law, because I personally believe the Longtan is an Australian memorial, even though it's only 1 or 2 memorials in Vietnam, the other one at Dien Bien Phu. I personally would like to see it remain here, as it represents the souls of those who passed away at Longtan and is now taken on board by the whole of the Vietnam War Society. And I'm sure the public and veterans will come here to see the cross. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. I now invite Mr. Neil Rankin to say a few words. Neil Rankin was the platoon sergeant of 10 Platoon D Company, 6 RAR, at the Battle of Longtan. Neil fought in the thick of the action in the battle and was a well-liked NCO, according to Ian McNeil's official history, volume to Longtan. In 1969 to 1970, Neil served a second tour in South Vietnam as a staff sergeant with the 6th Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, by then renamed 6 RAR NZ, an Anzac unit. He was the soldier who identified the site of the battle for the placement of the Long Tan Cross on 18 August 1969. He located the badly damaged trees, still with shrapnel in them, and with the heel of his boot, he marked where the cross should go.
Thank you very much. After hearing the speeches and the one that I have prepared, I'm sure someone has copied my notes. So the other alternative I have is to sing you a song, but I don't think that would be appropriate. First of all, I'd like to reintroduce myself. My name is Neil Rankin, and I was the platoon sergeant in 1966. And again, I went over with Delta Company in 69. I was the honour guard for the dedication of the cross. I've been invited by the Australian War Memorial to talk about the Long Tan Cross. What will you see today? You will see a scarred concrete cross which was built back in 1969 by the 6th Battalion Pioneer Platoon. They were not familiar at the time with cross building. However, they produced a magnificent cross which was to mark a special place. In 1969, I was selected by the Regimental Sergeant Major to travel in the lead armoured personnel carrier to locate and mark the site where D Company had fought. The site that I was looking for was not of D Company's position, but a certain location where the second contact took place. That position was 11 Platoon, one of the 3 platoons which took part in the battle. This platoon, under the command of Gordon Sharp and Bob Buick, not only had the first and second contact with the enemy, but repelled attack after attack. And they faced the machine guns of 50 calibre, which was zeroed at ground level. This was the platoon that took the most casualties. Out of a strength of 28, 13 were killed and 8 wounded. Why was this platoon so important to me? Because I had trained them prior to the battle. I knew each and every one of them, including most of their families. Gordon Sharp's family lived next door to me at Cessnock when I was a kid. This to me was the site which the cross had to be erected. After some searching, I found the site. The rubber trees bared the scars of small arms and heavy machine gun fire. With the heel of my boot, as stated, I did mark the site where the cross was to be erected. The cross was flown in, slung underneath a helicopter, and positioned on the battlefield where 3 years earlier, the most bloodiest battle involving Australian troops took place. A guard of honour with 9 of the originals, plus 1 from the armoured personnel carrier, the 6th Battalion, who was on its second tour, and the armoured personnel squadron formed up in a box formation around the cross. All eyes were upon this white monumental centrepiece. The cross and the surrounding grounds was consecrated by all religious denominations. Since then, the cross at Long Tan has been an assembly point for all veterans to visit, not only on Anzac Day or Vietnam Veterans Day, and in our case, Long Tan Day, but by anyone visiting throughout the year. It's there to commemorate not only the men from Delta Company, but all those that fell during the Vietnam conflict. I ask you again, what will you see today? You will see the original cross that was erected on the battlefield in 1969. What you won't see is the pain and sorrow where this cross once stood, where 18 young lives were lost and another 23 wounded. The remaining 69 battling with the memory of this loss for the rest of our lives. You will also see the plaque that shows that this cross was dedicated not only to the men of Delta Company, but to the enemy who fell on the 18th of August. It also honours the 245 Vietnamese soldiers who were buried on the same battlefield. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I hope when you look at the original Long Tan Cross, you will see it with a different view by having the knowledge where this cross once stood in the blood-soaked earth where so many young men paid the ultimate price for what they believe. Can you appreciate that this is not just a scarred cross, but a symbol of our heritage and our sacrifice? I would like to acknowledge two people from 6RAR who played an enormous part toward today's activity. Without them, today would not have been possible. As mentioned by Harry Smith, we have Alan McLean, who is I have christened him as our cross builder. Alan is here today. Alan, thank you very much. Secondly, I would like to acknowledge Terry Burstle. Terry not only was in the actual battle, but found the cross in 1986, which had been removed after our withdrawal. Without him, the cross may still be used for other purposes. Thanks to you both. I'd like to thank the Vietnamese government for allowing us to see this cross once again and for allowing us to visit the sacred ground where it once stood. A replica cross now stands in its place. May we continue to gather at this site to pay our respects not only to those who fought at Long Tan, but the 521 Australians who gave their lives in Vietnam. Let their souls rest in peace, knowing we continue to remember them on this special day, under the shadows of the Long Tan Cross. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rankin. I'd now like to invite Ms. Nola Anderson, Acting Director of the Australian War Memorial, to deliver the thanks and farewell.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Harry and Neil, for those words. There are some words of thanks and acknowledgements I would like to make. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the goodwill and assistance of the Ministry of Culture, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, and the cooperation of the Dong Mai Museum for making this loan, and I have to say, Harry, it is a loan, possible. And also the staff of the Australian Embassy in Vietnam, particularly our ambassador there, Alistair Cox, and Consul General Mr. John McAnulty. An international loan of this nature is a complex undertaking, and it's one that's taken many years, as I've already said. But it's also an expensive undertaking, and I would like to acknowledge the support of Qantas Freight, Vietnam Industrial Investments Limited, QBE Insurance, University of New South Wales, RMIT University Vietnam, BlueScope Steel, and IDP Education. And there's one person here today I would also like to acknowledge, and that's Sean Gibbons, because you'll see in some of the photographs that we have on display next to the cross the work of his father, Dennis Gibbons, whom I'm sure you will all be familiar with from his photographs from Vietnam. And also, of course, John Schumann and Hugh McDonald, who will have something special for you again in a moment. And so to the veterans here today, this afternoon is yours, and again, I'm very pleased to be able to welcome you here to the Australian War Memorial.
Ladies and gentlemen, could you please remain in position whilst Their Excellencies, accompanied by the Minister for Veterans Affairs, Lieutenant Colonel Harry Smith, Mr. Neil Rankin, the Chairman of the Australian War Memorial and the Acting Director of the Australian War Memorial, move to view the Long Tan Cross. I now have the pleasure of introducing John Schumann. John Schumann is one of the very few songwriters who has changed the way a nation thinks. Accordingly, he holds a distinguished place in the Australian music industry. Best known perhaps for his leadership of the legendary folk rock band Red Gum and his Vietnam veterans anthem, I Was Only 19. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Schumann and his guitarist Hugh McDonald.
Thank you very much. Welcome here, and we'd like to express our respect to the veterans of the Battle of Long Tan. In fact, all the men and women who served in Vietnam. We'd like to do 3 songs for you this afternoon. The first one is about a friend of ours, Phil Thompson. Phil Thompson was perhaps the president of the Vietnam Veterans Association of Australia, who really put Vietnam veterans on the national stage. Phil became a very good friend of ours, and Huey and I were devastated when he took his own life outside the Holbrooks Army Barracks. After I wrote I Was Only 19, I made a promise to myself that I wasn't going to write another song about the Vietnam War because it had been done. But when Graham Walker, who's a dear friend, who rang me up and told me that Phil had passed away, I asked him where would a soldier be safe in Vietnam? And he said the only place a soldier could really feel safe and let the guard down was behind the wire, safe behind the wire, Nui Dat. So that's the genesis of this song in memory of Phil Thompson. When the bodies were bagged and the telegrams sent and the very last chopper had gone, and you looked out the window of the 707 on the airfield in Saigon, and some of us thought that the war was over, some of us couldn't care less. But you came home and threw a stay-behind party to try to clear up the mess. And I don't know where you are tonight. I'm down here in a firefight. But wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire. We were fighting for freedom in Southeast Asia. That's how the story ran. And Windy's speech was about a domino fallen from China into Vietnam. And look back in sickness and anger, Australia didn't honour her debts. And non-commissioned officer Thompson learned that the war wasn't over yet. Living on your nerves, living on the phone, sleeping in airports far from home, dusted off now and safe behind the wire. Well, he gave and he gave and he kept on giving till he just couldn't give any more. And he gave it away one morning in Sydney in a rust-red Commodore. And I remember Phil Best talking on the phone with a cheeky grin on his face, 'cause Royal Commissioners and Knights of the Realm thought that Phil didn't know his place. And I don't know where you are tonight. I'm down here in a firefight. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire. And they're still bagging bodies, Phil, though 40 years have gone. And the mums and the dads and the wives and the kids still have to soldier on. And I don't know where you are tonight. I'm down here in a firefight. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire. And I don't know where you are tonight. I'm down here in a firefight. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire. Thank you. Hugh and I have been playing music together since the Red Gum days. In fact, what's probably not known is that Hugh was the only one in Red Gum who played on I Was Only 19, because the others in the band said they didn't think the song would work. And we have a new band called the Vagabond Crew, and about 2 or 3 years ago we put together an album of songs called Behind the Lines, which is, I suppose, a collection of contemporary Australian songs that reflect directly or indirectly Australians at war. And some of them were written by me, and some of them were written by others, and you will know all of the songs on the album. This song is one of the most popular songs, other than I Was Only 19, about the Vietnam War. But the fact was that, as you well know, Australians weren't at Khe Sanh. But we really wanted to record our version of Khe Sanh, and I knew that if I sang about Khe Sanh, my veteran mates would raise a very quizzical eyebrow at me, and that's putting it mildly. So I rang Don Walker from Cold Chisel, who wrote the original, and asked him whether I could change the first line. And we've done that to commemorate the bravery of the chopper crews from 9 RAAF Squadron who flew the resupply missions. Apparently, I mean, I've read a lot about the Battle of Long Tan, and of course there are various sort of versions, but apparently at one point it was made, the observation that was made that people, the air staff directives were that you couldn't fly choppers into dangerous situations. And there was a bit of a discussion in the operations centre apparently about whether they could fly the resupply mission, and somebody suggested that they should ring Canberra for a decision. Now that's a really good idea. Anyway, we've changed the first line. We hope you like what we've done with this song. Well, I owe my life to the choppers at Long Tan, and I sold my soul with my cigarettes to the black market man. I had the Vietnam cold turkey from the ocean to the Silver City, and it's only other vets could understand about the long forgotten dockside guarantees. And there were no V-Day heroes in 1973. And we sailed into Sydney Harbour, saw an old friend, but those long pay packets lean, and the telex riders clattered where the gunships once had been, and car parks made me jumpy, and I never stopped the dreams or the growing need to speed and know the pain. So I travelled around the country from end to end, trying to find a place to settle down where my mixed up life could mend. I got a job on an oil rig, flying choppers when I could, but the nightlife nearly drove me round the bend. And I've travelled around the world from year to year, and each one found me aimless. One more year, worse for wear. I've been back to Southeast Asia, but the answer sure ain't there. But I'm drifting north to check things out again. And the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone, and in 7 flying hours I'll be landing in Hong Kong. And there's nothing like the kisses of a jaded Chinese princess. I'm gonna hit some Hong Kong mattress all night long. And the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone. And now the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone. And now it's really got me worried, going nowhere and I'm in a hurry. You know the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'd like to finish with this song, which I think most of you will know. Interesting, just reflecting as I was listening to those moving and illuminating speeches, that the soldier who stepped outside the closed circle of Vietnam veterans in 1982 and told his story to a songwriter in a left-wing folk rock band from Adelaide and hoped that it'll all work out okay, was actually from 6RAR. This is a Mick Storan story. In fact, Mick Storan was in that group at the original dedication of the cross in the plantation at Long Tan. Lots of things have been said about this song. Some of them true. It's been said that this song helped bring Australia's Vietnam veterans home finally, that it kick-started the Royal Commission, that it helped kick-start the Welcome Home Parade. Maybe not, that's not for me to say, but what I do know is that hundreds of thousands of Australians bought this record. And I think Australians are fundamentally a decent people, and I think them buying the record was their way of saying sorry. Sorry, we didn't understand what it looked to you like from the rice paddies of Vietnam, us marching down the streets, waving banners. Sorry, we didn't understand that it was a different war to the war your fathers fought. Sorry, we let the government work you over. Sorry, we didn't believe you when you tried to tell us you were crook. Sorry. This song has been for me an amazing gift. You can't imagine what a pleasure it is to be recognised in an airport or a shop or a pub by a Vietnam veteran or a relation to a Vietnam veteran and be thanked so warmly and genuinely. It is one of the pleasures of my life. And you can't imagine what it's like to have a bunch of mates who are there for you when the wind blows in the wrong direction, and that's being an honorary part of the veteran community. So thank you very much. We'd like to do this song this afternoon for you blokes and your families, for the 50,000 Australians who served in Vietnam, for the mums and dads and brothers and sisters and wives who picked up the pieces when you came home. We'd also like to do it for our men and women who are wearing our uniform overseas this afternoon. And I think if we've learned anything from Vietnam, as a nation we've learned that we can oppose a war that our government consigns us to if that's what our conscience says. But I think we've learned that we must always respect and support the men and women that the government sent to fight that war. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having us here. Thanks to Mary Lou and the marketing department for your hospitality. Nola, everybody from the War Memorial. It's a pleasure to be here and a privilege to do this song for you now. Mum and Dad and Denny saw the passing out parade at Puckapunyal. It was a long march from cadets, and the 6th Battalion was the next to tour. Was me who drew the card. We did Canungra, Shoalwater before we left, and Townsville lined the footpaths as we marched down to the quay. This clipping from the paper shows us young and strong and clean. And there's me and Miss Louchak with me SLR and greens. God help me. I was only 19. From Buntown, riding Chinooks to the dust of Newey Dat. I'd been in and out of choppers now for months. We made our tents a home VB and pen-ups on the lockers, and an Asian orange sunset through the scrub. And can you tell me, doctor, why I still can't get to sleep? The night time's just a jungle dark and a barking M16. What's this rash that comes and goes? Can you tell me what it means? God help me. I was only 19. And a 4-week operation, when each step could mean your last one on 2 legs. It was a war within yourself, but you wouldn't let your mates down till they had you dusted off. So you closed your eyes and you thought about something else. And then someone yelled out, "Contact front!" And the bloke behind me swore. We hooked in there for hours, then a god almighty roar. And Frankie kicked a mine the day that mankind kicked the moon. God help me. He was going home in June. I can still hear Frankie drinking tinnies in the Grand Hotel on a 36-hour rec leave in Buntown. And I can still hear Frankie lying screaming in the jungle till the morphine came and killed the bloody row. And the Anzac legends didn't mention Martin, blood and tears, and the stories that my father told me never seemed quite real. And I caught some pieces in my back that didn't even feel. God help me, I was only 19. And can you tell me, doctor, why I still can't get to sleep? And why the Channel 7 chopper chills me to my feet? What's this rash that comes and goes? Can you tell me what it means? God help me, I was only 19. Thank you.
Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's closing ceremony. This evening we commemorate the Vietnam War and in particular the Battle of Long Tan. I would now like to introduce Ashley Eakins, Head of Military History here at the Australian War Memorial, to deliver the anniversary address.
Thanks, Richard. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. On behalf of the Australian War Memorial, I extend a special welcome to our Vietnam veterans present here this evening. Tomorrow, the 18th of August, is Vietnam Veterans Day. On that day, we remember all Australian servicemen and women who served and those who died in that longest and most controversial of our nation's wars. Tomorrow is, of course, also Long Tan Day. On the 18th of August, 46 years ago, occurred the first and one of the bloodiest major battles involving Australian forces in the Vietnam War. There were bigger and more sustained battles involving larger Australian formations, but few were so intense and dramatic as Long Tan. It became a defining event in the Australian experience of Vietnam. As dusk descends over this place and the rain hopefully eases, it should remind us of the dusk that fell after a violent storm abated over an isolated rubber plantation near Long Tan in South Vietnam 46 years ago. The approach of nightfall then hastened the end of the epic battle. On the afternoon of the 18th of August, the 108 soldiers of D Company, 6th Battalion of the Royal Australian Regiment, 6 RAR, encountered a combined Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army force over 2,000 strong. The ensuing battle was fought through a torrential monsoon storm. The dispersed rifle company came under heavy fire and 2 platoons were soon pinned down. The commander of 11 platoons, 2nd Lieutenant Gordon Sharp, was killed and casualties quickly mounted. The ferocity of the action is best conveyed in the soldiers' own words. Company Commander Major Harry Smith, who we're honoured to have with us here this evening, later recalled with masterful understatement, it was pretty obvious we'd run into a very large Viet Cong force. Although the large enemy concentrations limited his ability to manoeuvre his platoons, Major Smith managed to do so and pulled the survivors back to his company position. Under intense enemy fire, they fought off successive enemy waves of assault assisted by accurate artillery fire from the Australian base at Nui Dat, 5 kilometres away. At times, the 18 guns at Nui Dat were firing up to 100 rounds per minute. New Zealand forward observer, the late Captain Maury Stanley, recalled that, and I quote, "The rain and intense gunfire caused the area to be shrouded in smoke, steam and fog. This actually helped to conceal soldiers lying prone on the ground. Meanwhile, with just 10 men left out of 28 in 11 platoon, Sergeant Bob Buick, who took command, assessed they could not last more than 10 to 15 minutes unaided and requested artillery fire on his own position. The rounds wiped out a strong group of attacking enemy. That's the 5% luck, Buick later said. As D Company's position became increasingly desperate... Whoa, we've lost sound. What have we done? Cut it short?
It's probably at the unit.
This is not good technology. Apologies. Nope. Apologies for that, folks. We've got alternative technology. As D Company's position became increasingly desperate, 2 RAF helicopter crews flew a daring resupply mission at treetop level and dropped the ammunition right into our lap, said Smith. Second Lieutenant David Sabin recalled the company was by now, I quote, virtually surrounded, in a circle less than 100 yards across, being attacked from 3 sides and probed on the 4th, with artillery falling all around us. After 3 hours of continuous fighting, the Australians were reinforced by the arrival of soldiers of B Company and A Company mounted in armoured personnel carriers. The APCs arrived with their 50 calibre machine guns, all firing out into the trees at all points of the compass, Dave Sabin recorded. It was not only a relief, but a wild and beautiful sight to the men of D Companies. In the traditional role of the cavalry, they'd arrived in the very nick of time, Sabin later wrote. At the same time, the enemy forces withdrew hastily, and all firing ceased, as though the tap was turned off, noted Major Smith. D Company withdrew overnight, but on the following day an estimated 245 enemy bodies were counted on the battlefield. The enemy had retrieved many more of their dead and wounded during the night. Long Tan was declared a decisive victory for the Australians, but the cost was high. The battle left 1/3 of the company dead or wounded. 17 men were killed in action and 25 were wounded, one of whom later died of his wounds. It was to be the most costly single Australian action in Vietnam. 11 of those who died were national servicemen, conscripted by a ballot of birth dates, the infamous lottery of death. The other 7 were regular army soldiers. The youngest soldier was 19, the oldest were 22. Together their average age of the 18 who died was just 21. They came from all over Australia, from Tamworth, Sydney, Wallsend, Thurgoona and Wellington in New South Wales, from Perth and Cundrin in Western Australia, from Launceston in Tasmania, from Bendigo and Ballarat in Victoria, from Toowoomba, Brisbane, Dalby, Goondiwindi in Queensland. A typical cross-section of young Australian men of the time. Who were they, and what do we know about them? Here in the memorial we strive to keep their records and preserve their memory. I'll give you an example of just 2. Among those 18 killed was Private Albert McCormick, the first Tasmanian soldier killed in the Vietnam War. The youngest of 7 children, Albert grew up in Launceston and was working as an insurance clerk in Brisbane when he was called up and posted to 6 RAR. He became a stretcher bearer and medic in 11 Platoon D Company. He was known among his mates as a sensitive and articulate bloke, popular for playing his guitar and nicknamed Lionel after the current folk singer Lionel Long. In the same platoon was another national serviceman, Private Dennis McCormick, a labourer from Adelaide, nicknamed Wheels for his love of cars. The 2 men from different backgrounds and bearing the same surname were not related, but as Nashos they were assigned consecutive service numbers from the alphabetical order of their names. Bundled together in the army way, they inevitably became mates. In the opening stages of the Battle of Long Tan, 11 Platoon took the main brunt of the enemy attacks and suffered heavy casualties. Dennis McCormick was shot, and as Albert McCormick was attempting to administer first aid to him, he himself was fatally wounded by a gunshot to the stomach. Comrades in life, the two young men who shared the same name, also died together. Those 18 men who died in the Battle of Long Tan brought the total of Australian soldiers who died in Vietnam to that stage to 71. Just 4 months later, at the end of 1966, the total had risen to 81. And so the pattern continued for the remainder of that long war. Almost 400 more were to die in Vietnam before Australian troops came home at the end of 1971. The monthly toll of Australians killed in action or who died of wounds and other causes mounted remorselessly. They were to be only 4 months in the next 4 years in which there were no fatal casualties. The names of so many of our decorated heroes are well known. 4 Australian soldiers were even awarded the highest decoration for valour, the Victoria Cross, for their actions in Vietnam, and 2 of those were posthumous. Less well known are those soldiers killed in combat and whose deaths were not marked either then or now. Typical of them were 3 national servicemen: Private Raymond Clark, aged 21, Private Kenneth Duffy, and Lance Corporal Robert Power, both aged 22. All served during the second tour of D Company 6RAR, the company that had inscribed the name Long Tan indelibly in Australian military history and memory. Those 3 young soldiers were all killed within seconds of each other on the 8th of March 1970 during a fierce engagement with enemy bunkers in the Tan Ru area of central Phuoc Tuy province. Each of them, in turn, had bravely attempted to man an M60 machine gun while under heavy fire from rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapons. None of them knew that they'd gone to ground in a cunningly concealed enemy fire lane. A 4th national serviceman, Corporal Peter Ashton, then courageously dashed forward, retrieved the machine gun and engaged the enemy positions for 30 minutes, fearlessly standing up amid heavy enemy fire. Ashton was deservedly awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal, but there were no decorations for the other 3 young men, and no recognition aside from their comrades' appreciation of their selfless bravery. The actions of those 3 young men who died in the line of duty have now faded in time and memory, like tears in rain. Surely we should say, lest we forget. There are 521 names from the Vietnam War recorded on the memorial's bronze roll of honour in the cloisters here. They recount the human cost of Australia's military involvement in Vietnam. But the roll of honour is much more than just names on a wall. Each of these names represents a personal tragedy to their families in Australia, to brothers, sisters, wives, parents and children. On this, the eve of Vietnam Veterans Day, we should also remember that during the Vietnam conflict, Australian veterans returned to an increasingly divided nation. Many felt they received little recognition or acclaim for their service from a nation that they rightly perceived as either ungrateful or indifferent. Theirs was not a so-called good war like the Second World War. They did not serve and fight to save the world from Hitler and fascism, nor did they strive to make the world safe for democracy, as was claimed of the soldiers of the First World War. But all those who died did so in the service of their nation. Their sacrifice should not be forgotten. I would like now to introduce the Reverend Richard Shorty Brown, who will lead us in prayers. Please join me in silence to remember those who served and those who died.
Heavenly Father, we remember those who fell during the battle of that monsoonal rain on the 18th of August 1966 in a rubber plantation near the village of Long Tan. Father, we remember and we give you thanks for their sacrifice, which has given us as survivors 46 years to pursue the careers, hobbies and enjoy the privilege of married life, watching our children grow and mature. We also uphold you, Father, the next of kin, who have not had the privilege of seeing their son or their siblings, mature and reach his or their full potential. May they hold onto the gift of their son or their sibling who survives this battle that we remember so long ago. We also uphold to you those who carry the scars of battle, both physically and mentally, that they may receive your healing touch and provide oneself with the ability to accept the limitations of growing older. Our loved ones that we have supported, we thank you for our loved ones, for the love and understanding through difficult times since our return from the tour of duties and from each day since. Father, we also remember this day that we will never forget those who enable us to enjoy this day, lest we forget.
I now invite Mr. Bill Roach, a veteran of the Battle of Long Tan, to read the names of those 18 soldiers who died in battle.
Five 120, Private Richard Aldersey, regular soldier, age 20.
17309290, Private Glenn Dreville, National Serviceman, age 21.
1730941, Private Kenneth Gant, National Serviceman, age 21.
341167 Private Ernest Grant, regular soldier, age 20.
1730993, Private Albert McCormick, National Serviceman, age 21.
1730994, Private Dennis McCormack, National Serviceman, age 21.
1731013, Private Warren Mitchell, National Serviceman, age 21.
1731040, Private Douglas Savaron, National Serviceman, age 21.
1730947, Private Victor Grice, National Serviceman, age 21.
438903, Private James Houston, regular soldier, age 23.
2781847, Lance Corporal Jack Jury, National Serviceman, age 21.
217104, Private Paul Large, National Serviceman, age 21.
2781465, Second Lieutenant Gordon Sharp, National Serviceman, age 21.
30712, Private David Thomas, National Serviceman, age 21.
1200265, Private Francis Top, regular soldier, age 19.
216559, Private Maxwell Wales, regular soldier, age 22.
3787607, Private Colin Whiston, National Serviceman, age 21.
For Free Troop Light Armour Personnel Carrier Squadron, 54570, Corporal Peter Clements, regular soldier, age 21, died 9 days after battle.
Thank you, Bill and Shorty. Our piper, Mr. Jeff Williams, will now play a traditional Scottish lament, The Flowers of the Forest. This will recall the playing of the lament at the dedication and memorial ceremony of the original Long Tan Cross, the cross erected on the 3rd anniversary of the battle by 6RAR-NZ Anzac on the site of 11 Platoon's last stand at Long Tan on the 18th of August 1966. The same cross that is now displayed here at the memorial, kindly loaned by the Dong Nai Museum in Bien Hoa City and the Socialist Republic of Vietnam.